today's video, I'm going to show you how to make bent wood rings, kind of like this. Easy stuff. Tedious, but easy. Here we go. First off, what is a bent wood ring? Bent wood ring is a ring that is made out of material like this, veneer, and it is cut into strips, steamed or boiled, rolled up, and basically you get the final product like I showed you earlier, but obviously there's a process to it. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is, this is sapele veneer. Now this veneer is a little thick. Typically you would want a veneer kind of like this, very thin, very flexible, whatever. What I've done for this right here is I've squared up the bottom and I've squared up one side. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to square up this top piece right here. That way we have, so I have a cutting block here. Now I find a cutting block, it tends, or a cutting pad however, it tends to make things a little easier. You got your markings down here for distance. You don't need a ruler, you don't need anything like that. All of it's right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to square up this edge right here. That way when we cut our strips, we actually go to make our ring, we won't have to cut the strips towards the end, or later on in the process. It'll already be done. We just go ahead and sand, do everything that we need to do. It's one less step. It's easier to do it now than later. So I'm going to go ahead and square up this edge right here. Okay, so my suggestion is what seems to be working pretty well for me. I have made about 30 of these so far. I make them a 1/4 inch in width. The reason I do that is because I like to have more material than less. So when I cut these 1/4 inch strips, what I'm left with is edges that I can sand down smooth, and then I can sand down to the width that I am looking for. So it makes things a little bit easier. Yes, it's a little bit more work when it comes to sanding, but this is a tedious process making these things, so it's better to just go ahead and just try to cover the bases as best as you can. Straight edge here, I'm using level. As you can see, this level has a nice flat straight edge to it. And okay, so there's a bit of technique when it comes to cutting this. Okay, you don't just want to just rip. It won't work. You think it will. You swear it will. Doesn't matter how sharp of a knife you have. Don't do it. Bad idea. What you want to do is you want to put a lot of pressure on this. You want to score it nice and easy. What scoring means is just nice and easy. It creates a little line in it. And you want to score it again, score it again, score it again. Each time adding a little more pressure. Next thing you know, before you know it, boom, you have your strip. Okay. I'm going to be making 4 of these. So I'll show you the first cut and the first strip, and then after that, the rest of them is going to be the same. We'll fast forward to, after this, we'll fast forward to the part to where we prepare it to actually get bent. So nice and easy, plenty of pressure. You can hear it cutting through the wood grain. like a curly maple, you know, like veneers where they have burls in them, and that looks amazing. Absolutely looks amazing. However, I don't know if you can see this or not, but do you see how the pattern for this, it's a vertical pattern, it's going up and down like that. You want a veneer that does that, because the reason for that is because a veneer, when you're making these rings, they're strong this way, they're not so strong that way. That's just how wood is in general. So try to find yourself a veneer with long, straight grain. That's the best ones to make it out of. I've tried the burl veneer multiple times. I tried a cherry burl. It looks amazing, but I have not been able to get one single ring out of it, because every time I go to roll it, when I hit the burl part, it snaps. And that's because it does not have the structural integrity that the long, straight grain has. So that's why it's best to use that. Now, if somebody has figured out a way to do that, to use a burl unique veneer, please leave it in the comment section below. Maybe a link, a YouTube video, or anything like that, so I can progress and do better. But for right now, I have searched all over the internet. I have not found anything. So if you know the inside scoop and you don't mind sharing it with me, please let me know. Thank you. Okay, so quick update. Alright, so quick update. So I have cut my 3 here. Now these 2 right here are cut at 1/4 inch. So the thing to keep in mind if you guys want to try or to do this to actually make money or sell, girls usually tend to buy thinner rings, whereas this one right here is for myself. This is a thicker ring. Now granted, it's not going to be this thick, but remember when I said something about having more than less, okay? These right here, there's not going to be much shade off these. You have to be very careful, as I'll show you. Okay, so these right here are going to be smaller than this one, but they're going to be constructed very carefully, as you will see. This one right here is going to be for me, and it is going to be somewhere along just a little bit wider than this, a little bit wider than 1/4 inch. It's just because guys usually tend to wear wider rings. They look more masculine. They look less feminine. The wider they are. It's not the sexiest thing or anything. It's just the way it is. So let me get the water boiling, and we'll go on from there. All right, guys. So we got some water in there. There's no predetermined amount, about that much. So basically, take the child lock off first. And what we want to do is we want to bring this to a boil. Quick update. I also decided to cut more than just 3 that I was intending to cut. The reason for that is because I'm a little worried because the veneer is so thick. I'm a little worried that when I start rolling it, it's going to crack, it's going to be weirdly shapen. So if I go ahead and I figured if I go ahead and cut more than what I need, I roll them all, they turn out good, boom, no dramas. I got more than what I need. However, if I don't, if they don't turn out right, then I'm good to go because I have extras. Okay, guys, so this is what's going on right now. As you can see, it's really close to boiling. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to drop these pieces of wood in boil. Let it boil for 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. It's a little bit thicker wood, so I'm not entirely sure about this. This is about the thickest veneer that I have gotten. I can't really complain, I got it for free. But we're going to see how that works. Hopefully it turns out good. If it doesn't, trial and error. Again, I've never worked with veneer this thick before, so we'll see how it goes. Drop these in. Got my fork here. Alright, so we, for the most part, have all of our pieces submerged. Yeah, it works better if they're going like this instead of straight across, obviously. Okay, so don't mind the music in the background. It's my day off and I'm drinking a little bit, so it's kind of what I do on my day off here in my apartment by myself. Alright, so, booyah. There it is. I'm going to put the top back on it. It boils quicker like that. So, yeah, we're going to let that boil for about 20-30 minutes. And let that boil for about 20-30 minutes. We'll come back, check it. I'll take this fork, I'll take it and I'll kind of do like that. I'll put it in the prongs. And if it's pretty soft, it moves pretty well, then we'll go ahead and pull it out. Alright, so this is what we got right here. Keep the camera away so it doesn't get foggy. And you can see here, it's boiling quite nice. Okay, so we're going to take this, we're going to put it on our table, and we're going to start rolling them. Now, the instrument that I'm using to roll these hot pieces is just a chapstick stick. Anything that's kind of small in that vicinity of size that you can just roll it. All it is it's a very, very, very crude way to just roll it. Because then, once we roll it, we're going to put tape over it, and then we're just going to set that down for 12, 16 hours, something like that, up until the point to where this or the wood pieces are dry. The reason for that is obviously the bonding agent that we're going to use to make the rings are not going to work if the wood is wet. Just keep that in mind whenever you decide to make these. Touch the inside of them while they're rolled up in the tape. If they're damp, just let them sit. If they're not, you're good to go. You want a very, 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 very tiny little bit of dampness, because as long as it's a little bit damp, it's still pliable. So you'll see what I'm talking about later. Let's get to it. Okay, so trying to get you the best seat in the house. As you can see right here, these are our pieces right in here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take out one. Be very careful, it's hot. Just going to be boom, boom. Just going to take some of this moisture out. And then while it's hot, very carefully, that's the reason, this is the entire reason why I have this tape on my table. It's for the glue up and the rolling of these. Now, just as I thought, because it's thick, it's wanting to crack on me. So just gotta be careful. Okay, so the first one didn't turn out well. We're going to try not drying it off. We're just going to roll this very crudely and see if that works. We want this to just dry in the shape of a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. We want to do this That's it. Money. Oh God, this is hot. Ow, this sucks. Quick, 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 gotta be quick, gotta be quick. Well, fellow YouTubers, I will be honest with you. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to turn out. This is, again, the thickest veneer that I've used. But also, this is cracking and doing some weird things. Now, I've had some that cracked before, but again, this is very thick veneer, so hopefully it turns out well when it comes to the gluing of it. Makes this project totally worthwhile. That's going to be really crappy if I can't make one for myself. Alright, here we go. This is the big piece. This is the one for myself. Alright, so nice and easy. Gotta be quick though, gotta be quick. Yep, and of course, why wouldn't you break? In every single location that you could possibly break in. Look at that beauty. Oh yeah, she's a beaut. By the way, almost none of the wood veneer bentwood rings that I use or that I do look like this. Whenever I'm making them, it just so happens to be the one that, of course, I put on YouTube. I've never dealt with wood this thick before, and you guys are learning from my mistakes. Okay, so this is what the first one looks like. As you can see, it's a beautiful fractured pattern. I mean, just look at that. Alright guys, so what we're going to do now is just going to let this sit. I'm going to let it dry out some. The really, really, really important part is the glue up tomorrow. So, just to give you a quick overview of what we are going to be using. What we're going to be using for this, usually, we're going to be using this Loctite super glue in the red container, the ultra liquid control. It's thin, so it dries quickly. You'll find that once you start doing these and you start reading into it and whatnot, there are certain thicknesses of these glues that you can use. One might be thin, medium, or thick. Thick usually tends to take a long time to dry, but it leaves a really thick finish. Medium, less time to dry, less of a finish. And then this thin dries really quick, but it doesn't leave quite as dense or as shiny of a finish. So what I have here at my disposal in the UAE is this thin stuff right here. So that's what I'll be using. We'll let this dry and we'll get back to you tomorrow. Okay guys, so this is what we've done. We have rolled them like this. They have been sitting for about 16 hours, good and dry. I turned my air conditioner off here, so it would speed up the process, the drying process a little bit. These are a bit thicker. They're still cold, a little damp, but it's not bad. And that's kind of what we're shooting for. We don't want it to be wet, but what you do want it to be is just slightly damp. What I have here, piece of 150 grit sandpaper, and for these rings, that is the coarsest grit that I usually go. I find that using like a 60 or an 80 or something like that, whenever you start sanding, it's just way too coarse for it, and this veneer is really thin, so it just like takes chunks out. It doesn't do a good job. So the 150 is what we're going to do here. So I'm going to take one of these, unroll it, unwrap it, and on both ends, I'm going to lay them down and sand them. And out when it gets wet. And I have a very cheap masking tape. It's what I like to use because it doesn't have as much stickiness to it. That's why I have such long pieces. It just sticks to itself. And sometimes you get stuff like that. That's just pieces of wood. You're going to eventually have to sand it smooth anyways. I find that 3M tape, while it's really good tape, it's really crappy when it comes to these because it pulls a lot of these little fibers with it. Okay, so we got our piece right here. Just going to unroll it a little bit. I'm going to take one end right here, straighten it out. Just real light. Try to keep the pressure on the end as evenly as possible. You can see here. As you can see here, it's kind of starting to taper off a little bit. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to continue on that process. We're going to want it to get about right there, and we want it a little bit thinner. That right there, it's kind of thick, but I like it like this because when I go to roll it and it leaves the final product, it's easier for me to get something thick like this to kind of blend in than it is for something really thin, because then it feels like I'm just taking parts of the ring back as I'm sanding. So I like it kind of thick like this is what works for me. But I suggest that you guys make a couple, figure out what works for you, what doesn't. These are handmade, so they don't have to be perfect. And that's the beautiful thing about having crafts like this. They make really great gifts. They're really great, inexpensive gifts. And they're handmade, so they don't have to be perfect. And the people that you give them to, they're going to love it anyways. The people that buy them, they buy them knowing that these things are handmade, so it's not like going to a fancy jewelry store that sells nothing but the best from France, or this or that and the other. This is done by somebody's hands. This process that we're about to start, actually rolling and putting the glue on these to actually form the rough sections of the ring, is the most important. Take your time. Take your time to do it. I'll show you what works for me. It may not work for you. You may find a better way to do it. If you do, make a video and put it in the comments section down below so I can take a look.